Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about my bottom books or least favorite books that I read in 2022. As of this point in December, I am still trying to get through some books, but at this point I don't think, like I would imagine, they're probably just mediocre books, and I don't think I could, hate's a strong word, I don't think I could dislike them more than the books that I have for this. So I'm going to go ahead and film this, even knowing that there's probably some that could potentially still be on here, but I'm confident in my bottom 10. Now, something else that I want to say is, this is probably a little controversial for BookTube, but I very rarely rate books 1 and 2 stars. For me to give that book that kind of writing, that is like, I absolutely hated the reading experience. Like, it's, a couple hours of my life that I'll never get back. Like, I would just not recommend that to anybody. Like, sad I purchased it. Like, I mean, just like down and out. And I can honestly say I don't have that kind of experience with a lot of the books that I read. There's always something about the book that I enjoy. And for me, if that's the case, then I can't in my... I just can't find it in my heart to give it lower than a 3-star. So, most of the books, I will put up some stats, but most of the books that I've read this year have fallen between 3 and 3.5 stars. So, although these are my bottom books, a lot of these are 3-star books. So, they're not bad. And there's probably still an audience out there, and some of these I may still even recommend to people. They're just books that I wouldn't consider ever rereading. And they're definitely not books that I probably even remember that well. We'll see how well I'll remember them. But yeah, so let's just get into, I have 10 here. These are in no particular order. Hi, this is editing Donna Voice here. Oh, don't hold it against me. Okay, there's only 8 books on this list, not 10. Just ignore that. And yeah, thanks for watching anyways. But yeah, let's talk about my bottom 10. So first is Feral by Matt Serafini. So after going through that spiel, I have to admit this is a 2.5 rated star. This is my only book of this entire year, of the 223 books that I've read up to this point, that I have given below a 3. So this is a werewolf story, and it is about a couple of friends who decide to travel to this town, and in the meanwhile, this town is kind of undergoing a takeover by a group of werewolves, and they kind of become embroiled in this werewolf showdown. I did not like this. It was very sexualized, which I thought was completely unnecessary. And it really just took away from the story. And there were some, there was a guy who was freaking obsessed with his daughter, and it was just disgusting to read, and it added no value to the story that I saw. So I just did not enjoy that. Now I do have a couple of other Matt Serafini books on my bookshelf, that I'm still interested in reading. He is quite a popular horror author amongst the horror community, and his books get recommended a lot. I'm part of a horror group on Reddit, and his books come up a lot, so I'm very excited and intrigued to read more of them, but I will not be continuing in the Feral series. Next is The Rite, The Making of a Modern Exorcist by Matt Bellagio. This is actually a nonfiction story about a gentleman, an investigative journalist who is telling the story of a priest that he follows who is becoming an exorcist. And while it was interesting, a lot of the problems that I have with the big old capital R religion was quite obvious in this, and I was hoping with the exorcist part of it, we would get a more modern approach, but there's still a lot of backwards thinking, and they tried to make a distinction between, like, they know the difference between somebody who needs mental health help and someone who truly is possessed, and I don't know that they quite understood that. So I thought them bringing it up was a little pointless because it was quite obvious that they really didn't know the difference. And I was a little disappointed because I think the book had an opportunity to shine a light on some mental health stuff, and it just fell short. So next is The Hollow Kind by Andy Davidson. This is actually a recent read. I read this actually in the month of December, and I started reading it in November, and I couldn't get behind it, so I stopped reading it and decided to pick it up again in December. I just wanted to finish it. This is my second Andy Davidson book that I read this year. The other one I gave 3 stars was a vampire book. This is more of a creature-y book. This woman tries to escape an abusive relationship and goes to a property that she inherited from her grandpa, with her son, and some shit and drama has followed them, but then there's this kind of ominous creature and stuff that's happening on the grounds of the acreage. I thought the synopsis was very ominous, and I was looking forward to this book. This was one of my 2023 most anticipated releases, and I was extremely disappointed. It was just, there was like stuff going on, but nothing kept me entertained. I didn't really care for a lot of the characters, which of course, that tension, then of course falls short when you don't really care for the characters. I was a little confused in a couple of the parts. Some of the stuff just didn't quite come together as much as I think the author thought it was going to come together. So this, to me, I did give it 3 stars. I think this was just more disappointing rather than a horrible book. But I know a lot of Andy Davidson fans have been raving about it, so I know there are people out there who love it, but I was not one of those people. Next is the Ambergris Trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. Another one I would say that was highly disappointing. My only Jeff Vandermeer book that I ever read was Annihilation, which is the first book in the Area X trilogy. And I absolutely love that book. And since purchasing that book, I've gotten a lot of his backlist books. So I have this. I have the Bourne duology. I picked up the rest of the Area X. So I have a lot of books by Jeff Vandermeer, and I wanted to read something that wasn't Area X. And I love the mushroom part of the cover, and so I was really excited to pick this up. And I was just extremely bored. I was so bored. I just did not follow everything. I tried. I couldn't get into it physically reading it, so I tried doing the audio. The audio wasn't doing it for me. I went back to physically reading it. I really, really struggled to get through this. I was extremely bored, and for the size of it, I couldn't wait to be done with it. It couldn't have come fast enough. So, but that's not turns me off from Jeff Vandermeer. So, this was not a good one for me, but I would continue to pick up his other books. So, next is The 20 Days of Turin by Giorgi Di Maria. This is again kind of like an investigative look into something that happened in a town in Italy where these giant creatures wreaked havoc on this little town, and this guy shows up trying to understand what happened, and he ends up kind of getting swept in the chaos. This took a direction that I was not all anticipating, and I don't know that I was fully sold on the direction that it took. I felt like it was disjointed from where plot-wise the story was at the beginning, and so it kind of turned me off. And this was another one that I got bored. I fell asleep a couple times trying to read this one. I know that it is translated, and I think my thoughts on this have nothing to do with the translation. I think it was just the storyline of the book was not what I wanted nor what I was expecting. Yeah, just an odd little book and not in a good way for me. Next is Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Power. This is the second Rory Power book. Although I gave the other one a 3-star, I actually would prefer her other one over this one. I read a lot less young adult books this year than I have, and I think this book really summed up my issue that I have with young adult books, and that is that a lot of them, you following a character who is trying to piece together something that's happened. In this particular case, she wants to have a relationship with his grandmother, and her mother is totally against it, but then doesn't tell her why, doesn't tell her what's going on, doesn't tell her anything about the family history. So, naturally, she does what anybody would do and goes against her mother's wishes and goes to seek out her grandmother. And on the day that she arrives, there ends up being this big fire in this field outside of her grandmother's house, so she kind of gets wrapped up in that. And of course, through being there, she uncovers kind of the family legacy and all that. But again, one problem that I have with young adult books is the adults in the book feel that they're too young to understand what's happening, and it's very frustrating for the reader. It's like, somebody just freaking give them some information, answer some questions. You get very tired of well, I could tell you, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to tell you. Or I could tell you, but I promised so-and-so that I wouldn't tell you. Or I could tell you, but I don't want to. Or I could tell you, but it hurts me to tell you. It's like, good freaking Lord. And this book had a whole lot of that, and it's very frustrating to read. And I think that part of it overshadowed the actual good plot twist and the kind of weirdness and ominous part of this whole book with the peaches. Although I will say I've never looked at a peach the same again. But all of that kind of overshadowed the good parts of the book, which is what really made it in my bottom 10. And people of BookTube, don't come for me, and it pains me to put this book on here, but The Hellbound Heart by Clive Baker. Yes, this is the book for the Hellraiser movies. I read this book and then watched Hellraiser. I've seen Hellraiser before, but I have never read the book. I do not hate the movies. I thought the new Hellraiser movie was, decent. The movies are freaking weird, like Hellraiser movies would be. The book just didn't do anything for me. I thought it was gory for gore's sake. Didn't necessarily need to be that way. There was more questions than answers I was left with. It is a shorter book. I think I would have liked a little bit longer to kind of get the full thing. I was not sold on the relationship between the woman and the guy, so I didn't understand why she was dead set on trying to bring him back, because the romance just wasn't believable to me. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed, but again, I have some other Clive Barker on my shelf, so I will be continuing to read him. And last but not least, La Fauna by Ottessa Moshfegh. Now this is the second Ottessa book that I've read this year, and this one is far different from the first one that I read. I think this author is very good at writing weird fiction, which in the realm of that, the two books that she's written, although I would consider them both weird fiction, this one is weird and disgusting and not in a good way. Like, it made the book pointless. I don't understand what the point of it was. There's a lot of people that went into this whole big religious thing, and because I'm not religious, maybe that's why I didn't get it. I don't know. There were a lot of really gross parts. Now, I will say, this has sparked my interest in reading some other grotesque books, because this, to me, falls under the category of, like, what the fuck did I just read? And while I did not like this book, I liked the intriguing part of what those books do to my psyche. So I will give this book credit for that, but it is just not a book. I don't even know who the hell I would recommend this to. I recommend it to some people, but just for the mere fact of, dude, you gotta read this freaking book because it is wacky. And I don't think they're gonna enjoy it, but I'm still interested to see their faces and their expressions and all of that conversation that goes with reading a weird book. So, yes, it is in my bottom 10 books, but there we go. That is all of them. Again, 2.5, and then the rest of these were 3. So all in all, not the worst books out there. I definitely won't be rereading any of these. But like I said, there are authors that I am familiar with, and I would continue reading their new stuff and backlist stuff. So yeah, so that's it for my bottom 10 books of 2022. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.